Is there any hope for Halo by the Act Man?
What's up, everybody? This is the Act Man here, and today it's been a while since my last Halo video. Let's check in on how things are going.
12 seconds later.
Joe Staten is leaving the studio to rejoin Xbox Publishing.
No, God!
It's done, bro. It's done.
No, God, please, no!
Joe's gone.
No!
Joe is gone.
No!
Joe Staten has left 343.
It's not fair!
This is a studio that was hit especially hard by
Joe Staten? I don't actually know who that is.
the layoffs, and it's raising some concerns about the future of the Halo franchise.
Can Halo just catch a break, man? Like, the bad luck should have run out by now. Unless 343 was built on an Indian burial ground.
Probably.
That is better.
With
Given
what's
the
been going
events
on,
between,
probably.
the release of Halo Infinite and now, I think we're all a little bit worried about the future of the Halo franchise. This is a topic that we've rarely discussed on the channel. Yes! As I'm sure you've heard, bad news. Microsoft and many other tech companies have announced loads of layoffs in preparation for a recession that...
It's not in preparation for a recession. I think what companies are trying to do is they're trying to transition over to AI in a big way. So a lot of them are dropping employees and investing in AI instead. Which is what's happening right now, and will continue to happen unless they see a massive loss in revenue.
Once again, I'm sure Obama is responsible for. Damn you, Obama! But there's quite a few angles to this story, and I hope to cover them all. More importantly, I hope to answer the question that is no doubt burning in so many people's heads. How could this happen to Halo? And of course, we've got other fun questions like, should 343 continue developing the Halo game?
It happened to Halo because Halo's been very mismanaged for a long time. And I honestly think, hot take, that someone else should take over the Halo franchise and 343 should give up. Because I honestly feel like all the things they put out have been pretty trash. Besides, like the multiplayer was fine, but it was released in a broken state. It had a lot of microtransactions off the bat. It just, in general, wasn't good. Like, it wasn't a full experience. And I feel like another company could have a better time messing with it. I'd say give it to a company that can do all the remix. And it's funny we keep talking about remakes. Give it to a company that can do remakes for all the original content. Like, because remakes are hot right now, especially since, like, with the release of Dead Space. If a company can really bring up the old content and make it really good again, like, I feel like that's the only chance they really have. 343 kind of feels like a shell of what it used to be.
Games. Or is it time another studio had a crack at it? Definitely a hot topic of discussion. And what do these job cuts mean for the future of Halo and 343? What is the state of Infinite right now? Are they gonna unfuck the TV show in season 2?
No, they're not.
What are you
There's
doing?
no way.
So many questions, so much uncertainty. Now, before we jump any further into it, this video is sponsored by Bespoke. Bespoke is a website that offers all sorts of themed boxes of goodies.
Dude,
Every month they
guys.
introduce new boxes and all sorts of awesome stuff
Fuck yeah.
inside them. There's a huge variety. You could get a knife set, some new boxers, cigars, fine whiskey straight from the saloon, and my personal favorite, the Scorch box, filled with all sorts
Hell
of
yeah.
amazing hot sauces. Each box contains
I really don't like the fact that hot sauces are so expensive. Man, hot sauces are so expensive to eat. Like, it just costs so much per bottle.
items worth $70, but only cost $49. And if there's one thing you gotta get, it's the Weekender bag. The perfect carry-on for any situation. You get to preview the contents of the box, and if you don't care for it, you can switch it out, or skip the month entirely at no extra cost. When signing up, you'll take a short survey to gauge your interests, and then boom, solid recommendations right there. And use my special link, bespokepost.com/act20.
If they gave out quality knives, I'd be down just for that. We need better knives in our house, I'll be honest. Our knives are kind of trash.
And enter the code ACT20 to get 20% off your first box. And use my special link in the description and pinned comment to do so. Treat yourself right. And thank you to Bespoke for sponsoring this video.
And now for something completely different.
The recent layoffs and important staff leaving 343 has left loads of room for speculation and rumor. As some said, 343 was retiring as a Halo developer entirely.
It should.
Former employees have come out to speak about piss poor management at Microsoft. It just seems like this is kind of a fucking disaster, you know what I mean? Now, where to begin untangling this? Well, Microsoft will be laying off 10,000 employees between January 8th and June 30th. And this wasn't a targeted drone strike, okay? This was blind fire into the crowd. Pretty much all aspects of Microsoft's business will be or probably have been hit by these layoffs, including their subsidiaries like the Coalition, Bethesda, and of course 343. You might have noticed something odd about this, namely the timing, because coincidentally the announcement that they will be laying off 10,000 employees comes a year to the day, exactly 1 year to the day, that Microsoft announced they were buying Activision Blizzard. Now, I'm no gambler, but that seems like a 1 in 365 chance of that happening. And to go with an age-old quote,
But as one trained in the Force, you know that true coincidences are rare.
so they're likely making room for this colossal takeover, which got me thinking, how many people work at Activision Blizzard? 9,800. Awfully close
Fucking-
to 10K.
But
Fucking
as one
LOL.
trained in the Force, you know that true coincidences are rare.
Now, I want to say that layoffs like these are always really tough on a lot of hard
I mean, 10,000 people is astronomical. We talked about this last time we watched a video on this. I think we watched a video by Young Yeah about the layoffs that happened here, and a lot of us were like really surprised and kind of like baffled at the idea that Activision Blizzard sacrificed 800 people to the death gods of Diablo 3. And now these guys are dropping off tens of thousands of people. It's crazy. 10,000 people is a lot. And it makes a lot of sense that it would be just because of the Activision takeover. I mean, if that is the actual standing guess, I would assume that's probably correct.
working people that don't necessarily deserve to lose their jobs. I hope all the people
But
who
like I
lost their
said,
jobs
though, AI is still a big thing, and people are like, that's the new meta. Like, there is a Twitch meta people like talk about all the time, but like when it comes to like big businesses, they try to look ahead, and Microsoft's one of those companies that always tries to be ahead. And I feel like AI is the direction a lot of companies are starting to shift to. So that could also be another reason.
can land on their feet and get a new one. And please don't attack or be an asshole to anyone at 343. You know, now's not a good time to ask, hey, when are Playable Elites coming back? You already know the answer. It's never. So this begs the question, with all these studios and IPs Microsoft has or is acquiring, do they need as many people to work on Halo?
No.
Maybe the Halo franchise is determined to just not be as profitable, so they're pulling resources from it. You know, why invest trying to revitalize this thing that hasn't worked for the better part of a decade when you got Call of Duty coming in, and Call of Duty always sells, even when everyone agrees the games are shit. It's
Yeah, but Call of Duty's like not that bad. Like, don't they have like a battle royale system? I mean, like, not to be a dick or anything, but a lot of people like battle royale. And a lot of people like the new the Black Ops game that came out. Not Black Ops. Is it Black Ops? It might be Black Ops. Whatever the one it is Battle Royale. The most recent one. People love that fucking game. I mean, people streaming like crazy. I think the people who make Halo have like 1 foot in the past and 1 foot in the future. And like because of that, a lot of the content doesn't come through the way it should be. Like that's how I personally feel. I feel like a lot of it isn't progressed enough to like where people want to play it and get into it. Like I said, like the multiplayer for Halo was really fun for like a week, and it didn't hook me after that. Like I played it for like a week, and that was it. The game monetization system fucked it. You have to give your players a really strong free to play experience to retain them, and maybe they'll buy extra shit. But if it's like if your game is like, you know, free to play and everything you do in it is content that you have to pay for, like it's not fun because the progression system isn't fun. And people play games to feel like they're working towards something and they're achieving a goal. And if you can't work towards something and achieve a goal, then why play the video game? That's how people work. We are people of progression. We want to see our work have some kind of value come from it. You don't go and raid in Warcraft just to have fun. You do it for loot. You do it to kill a boss because you feel you want the sense of accomplishment. You want the achievement. You don't go and you play DBD because you want to just have fun. You want to go in there to get blood points, to spend it on progressing a character, to get new skills, to get new abilities, get new characters. Like, there's always something you should be going for. And if you don't have any of that in Halo, which you don't really, why play the game without having to pay money? Like, stop doing free to play. Make a box price for multiplayer, $20. Give us some really good progression systems to go with. And then later on down the line, put a battle pass in. That's like fair. It makes sense.
Still tops the charts every year. Now, I could be talking out my ass when I give this take, but it seems kind of odd for a company to cut jobs in a business that's doing really well. Now, I did hear from an inside source at Bungie something interesting. They said in 2008, a year after Halo 3 released, an unprecedented economic crisis hit the US and the world. Bungie ended up hiring more people and made ODST and Reach. It's not always the economy. From what we've heard, 343 has lost about 60 employees, with 30 of those coming from the art team alone. Certainly doesn't bode well for Infinite given the already sluggish pace of updates, their eternal struggle to deliver
The art team just kind of like strengthens my opinion about it being AI.
promises and meet deadlines and provide any semblance of a live service. Most of the cuts were geared towards the campaign art and animation teams, which has pretty much destroyed any idea of Infinite Campaign DLC. I thought that was going to be a given when the game first came out, and then they just had those lame-ass story events that I think they've abandoned now.
My gear. It's not standard issue. It's necessity. History.
Neil Harrison, the former director of art management, was among one of the layoffs. So basically, the art team that gave us this. The team that finally gifted us the Halo art style we have been waiting for. Are they just all gone now? It's also important to note that Microsoft is cutting 10K jobs over a period of time. This didn't just happen at once, which makes it all the more interesting to me why 343 was hit immediately. You know, like, I'm just trying to put all the pieces together to get an accurate reading on the state of 343 and, by extension, the state of the Halo franchise. I don't think it's looking good. Now, a former 343 employee came out, Patrick Wren, and said, the layoffs at 343 shouldn't have happened, and Halo Infinite should be in a better state. The reason for both of those things is incompetent leadership up top during Halo Infinite development, causing massive stress on those working hard to make Halo the best it can be. And Jason Schreier from Bloomberg seems to agree with this statement, and it pretty much confirms what I've heard about behind-the-scenes development, which brings us to Joe Staten, our boy. While he has not technically been laid off from 343, he is leaving to resume his position at Xbox Publishing. It is a sad day. Now, technically we should have expected this since this was kind of the plan the whole time, but the timing is like right alongside all of these layoffs. The timing is just really bad. One might...
If anyone knows who Joseph Staten is, let me know, because I really don't know. Guessing someone who's important, who created something in Halo, but I have no clue.
Say sus. And to see someone like so revered by the Halo community leave at a time like this, you know, it sucks, man. Wouldn't it have been great if Joe was working on more story elements? It seemed like every time he appeared in a video is just to deliver bad news, you know? It's like, oh, what could have been? So amidst all this controversy, people started to speculate that 343 would be given the boot from Halo entirely. Let's give it to id Software. Let's give it to Infinity Ward or Treyarch or no, fucking keep it away from Sledgehammer. Actually, let's reel that idea back. But some of these rumors garnered so much attention that it warranted an official response from Pierre Heinz, who's now the head of 343. He made a short statement on Twitter that reads, Halo and Master Chief are here to stay. 343 Industries will continue to develop Halo now and in the future, including epic stories, multiplayer, and more of what makes Halo great. The word vague comes to mind, right? You can't say the franchise is in a good state when it is necessary for leadership to come out and say, don't worry guys, we all still have a job. Like, we're still gonna be making Halo. Could you imagine if Nintendo was like, don't worry, fellas, we're still gonna be making Mario games. Like, at what point does that happen? What does it say about the state of things? Like what? Imagine what could have possibly prompted such a response to be necessary? The reaction to the statement from Pierre has been interesting. You've got some people relieved that things aren't going to change and that 343 is still going to be in the loop on things, and you've got others who are disappointed, not reassured. But I also think it's funny when he says epic stories, right as the time that they're laying off a whole bunch of the campaign team.
The endless will return.
So we're probably not gonna ever learn what the endless are. I'm telling you. With 343's track record, this will probably be a plot point that they just kind of like solve off screen, and the next Halo game is gonna once again reboot the story. You know, I still to this day don't fully understand what has been happening at the studio that has caused it to be so dysfunctional and to have not a very productive or conducive workflow. I don't work there, so, you know, take everything I say with a grain of salt.
Probably leadership, right? They've already touched on that a little bit, but most of the time when that happens, it is literally just mismanagement and leadership issues. Probably public relations in some way.
Oh, but, you know, there's been barely any updates for Halo Infinite despite the large workforce on paper. Player numbers are... Well, let me just put this on screen for you. That about sums it up. Even if this was in July, Infinite should not be underperforming what is objectively the worst Battlefield game ever. Then you got Microsoft's company-wide hiring freeze, which has been going on for God knows how long, which meant even if 343 needed more hands on deck, they just couldn't get them. Not to mention Microsoft being stingy and weird as hell with its practices on contracted work, which, as Patrick Wren says, is a whole other can of worms. Can I just say, Microsoft, your strategy with contract work is clearly not working out. I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed. Fable trailer came out 2.5 years ago. Not a peep since. Elder Scrolls 6, ladies and gentlemen, it has been 4.5 years since the trailer. And I get that Bethesda's working on Starfield, but this is a pattern I'm noticing with a lot of Xbox exclusives. We get a trailer, and then it's years of nothing. Like huge chunks of time, years before we get any kind of update.
It's like the one thing that's really cool about indie developers, man. Like the update cycle is so nice. Like for Ashes of Creation, for example, the MMO that's being worked on by pretty much an independent studio. Like they come out with updates every month, like clockwork, and they're massive updates, and they give a lot of information. And I think that's super important when it comes to like your player base and your fans like staying consistently with you. Like if you're not updating them, they don't really want to, they lose hope, man, lose focus, go drift somewhere else and just assume it's never going to come out. And then you lose all that hype you're building up.
Like, think about this. We didn't see multiplayer gameplay for Infinite until 5.5 years after Guardians released. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's not just one thing that's been holding Halo back from the glory of success. Now, I want to take this section of the video to look at some of the notable people that have left 343 in recent years. And my goal in doing this is not to point the finger and say, haha, number company bad, but rather to illustrate how much talent and experience had been at the studio and is no longer there, to offer some kind of explanation for the studio's current woes. Chris Lee was head of production for Infinite for 2 years and has gone off the grid after leaving Halo, which I find very strange because normally a lot of developers, they don't like leave social media entirely.
Could be a scandal. Usually what it is, right? Scandal pulls out, vanishes.
After they leave a video game project, I don't know. But he left at the end of October 28th, 2020. He had been working at Microsoft since 2003 and was involved in the production of Reach ODST 4 and 5. Tom French, multiplayer creative director and the head of development on Forge for Halo 5. He left December 2022. Our boy Tom was at 343 for 11 years. Twindell Hoyle, Halo Infinite lead sandbox designer, left shortly after Infinite's release. He spent 9 years with the company. Mary Olson, Halo Infinite lead producer, was with 343 for 7 years and stepped down less than 2 months after taking that position from Tim Longo, who was the Halo 5 and Halo Infinite creative director but left in 2019. He was there for 6 years. Sparth, Infinite art director, left 343 after 14 years. Andrew Witz, Infinite multiplayer lead, left the company on March 4th, 2022. He had worked on Infinite since 2019. David Berger, technical director, been with 343 since 2008. One of the lead creators of the Slipspace engine. He left just days after Bonnie Ross. Aaron Lind, lead writer, left 343. Jerry Hook, online design director, then later head of design for Infinite, left 343 on May 25th, 2022, after working with Microsoft for over 20 years. And finally, Bonnie Ross, the matriarch of Halo, who was there at 343 from its inception, and who recently stepped down after 15 years leading the Halo franchise. Not every one of these people left 343 because of some, mad Kim Kardashian.
Like, okay, so here's the thing, right? Like, the company hasn't been doing fantastic, correct? You're not wrong on that. Like, Halo's not been good for a long time. Even Halo Infinite wasn't that good. Like, it was an okay, like, hey, we're back and we're playing. There's a lot of old school vibes, but like the game, it's not been doing good for years. So, like, those people leaving might be a good thing. Like, getting rid of old blood sometimes is a really good thing. Especially, like, for example, what happened in World of Warcraft. Like, there's a long stretch of time where the game just kind of went downhill hard because people who were in that leadership position had no fucking idea what they were doing. They did a lot of dumb shit. And that really held back the series. And like, I feel like in a lot of ways, Halo's in the same boat, man. After like Halo 3, which I think was like the last good Halo, I could be wrong. I'm not the biggest Halo fanboy. It just kind of went down. Like, I don't think any of these games have been that great. So that's just, I don't know, that's just an opinion.
Kardashian type drama, but it's like the turnover rate of senior and executive staff, it's a lot, man. It's weird looking back on some of the trailers and Vidocs and seeing like all the people who are no longer with the company. It seems to me when this many people with that much experience leave a company, there's just this massive vacuum of knowledge left in its wake. The thing is, I'm not sure how many people currently at 343 have been working on Infinite since the beginning and are now working on the live service. You get what I mean? So to me, it makes sense why updates and fixes are taking so long for this game, because most of the people working on the game didn't write the code they're trying to fix. At least that's what I gather. I could be wrong. Whatever the issues seem to be behind the scenes, like why, it's not quite coming together all the way, whatever the reasons are, Microsoft has remained the one common factor in all of this. It seems swapping people out of important roles at 343 has not produced the results they want. Infinite was delayed a year. It's been 7 years since the release of Guardians. And like, where is Infection? Like, why is something like Infection so hard? Maybe Microsoft was always intent on killing the goose that laid the golden egg, and when they got a new goose that laid bronze eggs, well, they had to kill that one too. Just my theory. And to go back to the topic of contractors, you ever take a few minutes to skim the endgame credits? Well, if you do, you might notice that some names, actually quite a few names, have parentheses, indicating what company they were contracted from. There's a lot of parentheses. Look at how many different collaborating studios they worked with and contracting companies. Airship Images, Atom Hawk, Axis Studios, Certain Affinity, Counterpunch, A Virtuous Studio, Experis, Insight Global, Lakeisha Digital, Liquid Development, Mandali Games, Mindwalk, Noir Studios, OF3D, Pixel Mafia, Red Hot CG, Room 8 Studios, Skybox Labs, Sparasoft, The Coalition, and Undead Labs.
See you later.
I can't even imagine the logistics behind working with that many different companies, let alone trying to get your own studio on the same page, and like trying to get everybody in a rhythm with a singular goal and a single vision of what the game should be. And if you look very closely at the credits, you might notice something very interesting. That being the section on testing. It appears that most or all of Halo Infinite's testing was done by contractors. If I'm not mistaken, a similar thing happened with
What?
Cyberpunk, and, well, we all remember what that was like at release.
Why?
City of dreams, city of gang, 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 gang. City of dreams, 70 grain.
So, like, if you want to find a reason, the reason I'm talking about, like, the workforce and the contracting employees is that the biggest issue with development of Halo post-Bungie has been the lack of a consistent vision for what Halo should be. Like I said, Halo 4 feels like the start of a new trilogy, and then we get 5, which feels like the start of a new trilogy. Same thing with Infinite. I think what 343 does a lot of is they incorrectly identify what the problem is and then overcorrect it. For example, think about the co-op mechanics in Halo 5 and being able to, you know, command Spartans around. Something could have been done with that in Infinite. The problem wasn't the co-op mechanics themselves in the campaign. The problem was you had 3 AI companions from start to finish, and the entire game was balanced around it. But imagine if some of that work was salvaged and put into Infinite. Let's say now you can command Marines. Hey, go get in that Warthog, drive it over here. Simple shit like that. It adds a new layer to the game. You've already done some work on it. That's just how my brain thinks. Here's a more tangible example. How about all the unused assets and hundreds of weapons they made in Halo 5? Like, where is the Mantis? I feel like the Mantis should be in Infinite. So many sandbox tools were, you know, they weren't perfect in 5, but they were good. Like the CE Magnum, the Halo 2 battle rifle. Again, things that you just think should be in the game. It just seems like 343 has a let's cut our losses and start over philosophy. And that needs to end, dude. Again, look at Elden Ring and look at Mario Odyssey and Smash Bros. Ultimate. Those games all built up to that final Ultimate title that is just, that's what Halo Infinite should have been. The Smash Bros. Ultimate of Halo. 343 has had
It's like Monster Hunter World, right?
Amazing ideas that they've...
It's just like Monster Hunter World, man. Monster Hunter World came out and it was a fantastic experience. And then Monster Hunter Rise came out and it completely underperformed compared to World. World was like the defining game for that genre. And, you know, I think a lot of people, including me, thought Infinite was going to be that as well. And it really wasn't. It was a shell of what it should have been. Like, do you see all those weapons and skins and possibilities? Like, that should have been in the game by default, man. And then they add on to it later. Like, you can unlock all that shit. And then, like, later on, they can add more stuff.
Left half-baked. And I'd rather eat a half-baked potato than a frozen one. Halo is a series that needs a consistent vision and a consistent team to pursue that vision.
And generosity. Need more generosity inside these studios. That's why Elden Ring got Game of the Year, man. Because it was generous. Generous with everything that it did. That's why Zelda Breath of the Wild is considered one of the best games of all time. It was a very generous game. It gave you a lot for very little. Like, you didn't have to pay that much money to get a extremely good experience. And a lot of these games now are just copy pasta. Like, here is the same quest 15 times, and here is a shop item. And like, people are we don't like that shit, man. Like, people aren't stupid. They don't like that stuff, and it's very obvious they don't.
Always had this vision right from the get-go, which is anyone can build anything.
Giving the fans the tools, they can take it and run with it and make it their own.
And when you've got a fucking carousel of leaders, executives, and contractors going in and out, it's hard to maintain that consistent vision.
I guess bad, but the old blood going, I think, probably is a good thing.
Halo should have assassinations. The game would only be better with assassinations, or playable elites. Forge should have been there at launch. Griffball. These are just staples. It should be there. We all agree. We all understand it. Campaign co-op. It should just be there. Think about split-screen co-op. That was the first thing they ever announced for the game that would become Infinite.
Can we reveal anything about the next Halo FPS title today?
I think the only thing that we'll confirm, as we do listen to fans, there will be split-screen.
Liar! The first thing we learned about the game coming after Halo 5, it was gonna have split-screen co-op. They didn't even know what the fuck the title was, but they knew that. It just seems like 343 wasted a lot of time in pre-production being unable to figure out what direction to take the game in. You know, there's so much unfinished work in the files for Infinite that we've seen. Like, people have known about Infection since before the game came out, I think. And it just feels like so much work from people has been rendered superfluous, or was like a waste of time, or nobody has bothered to finish work on certain things. Like the smoke screen and the bandit rifle. It's just, making a great Halo game is real fucking hard. But that's what makes it special, you know? They set Halo up for failure.
Attitude reflect leadership, Captain.
And to see former 343 staff say that and blast the leadership, well, it indicates to me that the lack of vision started from the top and it trickled down. That's why Halo is in the state that it's in. But to come back to the main question, is there any hope for Halo? Well, there's always hope, but I think if you're happy with the state of things, then you were naive and wildly unrealistic. Realistically, I think at this point the 343 brand is associated with a lot of negativity in parts of the community. I think it all comes back to Microsoft, in my opinion. All of this falls squarely on Microsoft's shoulders, I think, because at the end of the day, they own the franchise, and they've owned it for a long time. They are in charge of who is in charge. Simple as that. You know, to whoever is going to continue developing the Halo games, I just hope you have a consistent vision for what you want to do. A consistent vision of what makes Halo great. Build on the success of the franchise instead of tearing it down to start anew every few years. See if you can salvage some of the work and reuse certain assets from previous titles to make new ones feel more complete. So in conclusion, it is another sad day for Halo, 343 and Halo fans. But we will persevere. I don't know what the future holds, but I'd be lying if I said things are looking better. But
hey, there's always the modding community.
Thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed
always
the video.
a thing.
Leave a like if you did, and subscribe to the Act Man for more awesome content. Don't forget to check out Bespoke and get yourself a themed box of goodies. Alright everyone, that's all I got for today. This is the Act Man signing out. Peace.
What he said, if you want to see his video, make sure you go to subscribe to the Act Man. The video is great. All of his videos are great. In general, we love his stuff. But yeah, no, for real though, like, a lot of this has to do with, I think, Old Blood. Like I said before, like, Old Blood is like the biggest problem. And it will continue to be the biggest problem in certain groups and certain circles of like leadership, and it's just how it is. And like, if you have an underperforming product, more than likely it's the leadership. It's almost never the worker, almost never the people who are working under the leadership. It's just a really bad vision or really bad work environment that treats people harshly, and that's the reason why things end up happening the way they do. Especially too with like the way people do microtransactions. I honestly feel kind of weird because honestly microtransactions feel fucking dumb easy. Like, it's really, really easy to, like, fix and make it so that, like, your game is extremely, extremely marketable and, like, makes a ton of money. But people fuck it up all the time, and I don't know how. Like, it's very easy to just make the in-game shop items cheap. Make them cheap. People will buy more. People who never would have bought an item will buy more items. Like, you'll expand people's horizons. People can spend $3 here and there. People can't spend $30 on an item that's an item that you generated and made from one artist. Like 10 people buying something for $3 is like enough to pay for whatever you created. Like, you don't have to make it crazy expensive. And if more games did that, made it less expensive, like, more, you would not only have more people paying, you'd have more people having a positive opinion about your company and their microtransaction policy, because it is better than the rest of the competition. The competition's doing way worse than you. You look better by comparison, period. It's a win-win. You make more money and you look better. It's what you should do. Keep prices low, especially now going into a recession. Keep prices low. Make people happy. Your image is everything. That's all I'm going to say. Anyway,